Did you know demand for design skills is growing amongst Salesforce admin employers?
Awesome Admin!
Welcome, awesome admins, to episode 1 of Be an Innovator with Design. I'm Rebecca Starr, and I'm super excited for you to unlock your inner designer. We are kicking off a 6-episode series where we will go step by step to understand our users' challenges and redesign the account page, leveraging principles of relationship design. First, you'll learn about the primary design thinking phases, and then we'll follow Leanna as she shows us how to leverage our new skills to build the ultimate account page that gives our users that 360-degree view of their customer. So you can follow along and build the exact same page we are, or you can show us your creativity and build a page that solves your unique business needs. For episode 1, we're getting an overview of design thinking and a brief introduction to Salesforce's new evolution of design, relationship design. I'm excited to hear from architect admin evangelist Leanna Reimel and our very special guest, principal design architect and advocate Adam Doty from the designer relations team. We'll learn what you can do to take your page designs to that next level so you can ensure your users are having the best experience possible.
Thanks, Rebecca. So I'm here with Adam Doty, Design All-Star, and we are super excited to dive into the world of relationship design. Hi, Adam.
Thanks for having me, Leanna, Rebecca. It's a pleasure to be a guest on the Be an Innovator series. I'm excited for the adventure too. It's been a very busy year for design at Salesforce. We've been building a design and a designer relations program, and rolling the new practice of relationship design out to our Trailblazer community, and partnering with awesome admins like yourself to elevate and skill up on design best practices.
And design skills can be a game changer for how admins implement customizations. But before we dive into how our awesome admins can become better design thinkers, can you tell me a little bit more about what relationship design means and how that relates to design thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. So relationship design is essentially a practice anybody can adopt. It's an evolution of design from product design to service design, and then from service design to relationship design. Where product design is a focus on a single object, like a shoe, that is sold to a consumer or a user in a transaction. Service design focuses on the overall experience users have, not only with the product, but the experience of that shoe brand across channels, like storefronts and online shopping carts as well. Perhaps your users or customers' experiences with your company, and Salesforce is just one of these channels. Relationship design focuses on the reciprocal relationship between customers, employees, and communities over time. Some of the most successful companies like Starbucks have been practicing it for years, right here in plain sight. It's the fabric, of their design-minded business. Introduce design thinking. Early ideas around design thinking can be traced back to the early 1900s. It's been around a long time. It's essentially just a mindset and a methodology based on teamwork and collaboration. Design thinking is essentially a series of conversations to identify the needs and eventually a solution. Design thinking is also a non-linear process. But for the purposes of our Be an Innovator series, we're going to keep to a simple linear flow. While the fundamentals of design thinking are easy to adopt, to fully realize the value, teams must continue to integrate and refine the practice and learn over time. It's not a one and done activity. There is some variation in the phases of the design thinking process, but the most common phases are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, build and deliver, and validate. You'll often see these phases visually represented in the classic double diamond shown here. You can further bucket these phases into 3 broad chapters. At Salesforce, we call these chapters generally the understand phase, the create phase, and the deliver phase. And over the course of this series, we'll be introducing each phase and how designing admins can skill up on design thinking.
So you mentioned something that really stuck out to me, which is that this is not a one and done exercise for admins. This is something that they should revisit, come back to, really build into how they are designing customizations. What are some of the effects and implications you see for admins bringing design thinking into their app building?
By practicing design thinking and considering and bringing this expanded awareness, as well as your diverse stakeholder representation into your problem solving, you're investing in the long-term success of your projects and in turn the communities that they impact. For the purposes of this series, we will be focusing on the fundamentals of design thinking and give you a baseline from which you can continue your learning journey on Trailhead and build your relationship design practice. At the end of this episode, Rebecca will share some resources where to learn more about relationship design and design thinking. And I hope this series inspires everybody watching to become a lifelong admin designing student.
I hope so too. And I think that there's some really great design content that we have planned for you, our admins, in this series, starting with this episode. And this episode is called Start with Empathy. So tell me more about why design thinking starts with empathy. How come I can't just jump into App Builder and start building right off the go?
I often want to jump right into. I'm excited to start, designing on Lightning as well. But pausing and establishing a deep understanding of your users, their goals, their motivations, their struggles, is the cornerstone of a human-centered design process. And that's the focus here. It's also the foundation from which design thinking is based. So as an admin, you must connect with and understand your end users. In the conventional product design and development process, somebody, typically a product manager or a stakeholder, gives a direction to build a thing or a feature. Then it's designed, configured, typically under tight constraints, controlled by technical limitations. Then it's developed and launched. While this technically meets the business requirements or the functional spec, it leaves the human out of the process. The human that you're designing for, the end user. When you engage with your users to understand what they need and how they feel when using your product, you build trust with them.
So you mentioned and you talked about the impact on admins building design thinking into their process and the impact on the users. What's the larger business impact of adopting this human-centered approach?
Yeah, having a human-centered approach, involving your users, involving your stakeholders and your fellow makers, your teammates in every phase of your project will inevitably lead to better experiences. Over time, this will lead to happier users, improved NPS scores, better CSAT scores, reduced support cases, and eventually reduced tech and design debt.
So there's definitely a concrete business value with adding design thinking. It sounds like this is also really becoming an in-demand skill for our admin community.
Yes, absolutely. In-demand design skills are among admin job postings will be growing by 22% just in the next few years.
So I'm hooked. Let's dive into our demo scenario so we can start building design thinking into our process. So in this scenario, we're going to be working in an environment that most of you see often, an account page that has not yet been customized to meet our users' needs. Here we are in the account page. It is a great page. It's a useful page. However, it could be more useful for our users. Today, they have to leave and go into other parts of the app to accomplish some basic tasks. And we know our users could have a better page, but we need to find exactly what this page should look and feel like. In order to design with empathy, like Adam discussed, we want to hear from our users to better understand their needs and priorities. So to do this, we're going to take a look at our user feedback Quip worksheet and talk to our end user, Adam. So Adam, our end user, what is working well on the account page?
I feel like the help text is helpful. It's very useful. So it also works on my mobile phone device. That's nice. I can, do business from my phone. Lastly, I also feel like it's easy to access the basic info, in the highlights, like phone number and email.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with me, Adam. I've added it to the worksheet. Now, could you share with me some things that are challenging for you as an end user when you work with the account page?
Yeah, I feel like I'm always, too much scrolling. I feel like I'm doing a lot of scrolling. I have to open too many browser tabs to access additional related data. I feel like I'm just too many clicks and too many tabs. Lastly, it's hard for me to discern, what data and actions are relevant for me and what's not relevant for me.
Thank you for sharing that with me. So in this exercise, I, as an admin, am interviewing my end user, Adam, and adding that information to this worksheet. This helps me get information I may not have had otherwise, to empathize with my end user and to learn more about what they like and what they don't like about their current experience. This exercise will prepare you for the next phase when we work to synthesize the data and look to identify trends and topics across our orgs. Now, let's hear from Rebecca.
Thank you, Adam and Leanna, for sharing your insights on relationship design and design thinking. To summarize some key takeaways I have, 1, there are 6 phases of design thinking. There's empathize, define, ideate, prototype, build, and validate. And we're going to go through all of them. Next, design thinking is a human-centered approach. That's why we start with empathy. And last, but most important, design skills are growing in demand. And in fact, they're expected to grow by over 20% within the job listings for Salesforce admins over the next few years. That's why it's so important to join us on this journey. Okay, so now it's your turn. Complete the Start with Empathy Quip worksheet and fill out at least 3 cards for each section, the working well and the challenges sections. You can make a copy of this template. You can share it with some of your users. And then once you're done, don't forget to share on Twitter using the hashtag #BeAnInnovator. Now, just a quick note, design thinking is a team activity, not a solo exercise. So if you can't gather your full team to do these exercises with, maybe you can gather just a few friends or a super user to get their insights. And if that is also a challenge, no worries. Reflect upon a recent situation or scenario you experienced and use those insights for the basis of these exercises. All right, I know we shared a lot of great information in this episode, so we do have more resources for you to dive deeper in our trail mix. Definitely check that out. And then join us for episode 2 of Be an Innovator with Design, where we will learn how to define the challenge.